I want to take a moment to tell you about the GitHub story. So, because everybody knows, or if you're in programming and coding, you know about GitHub. But GitHub is built on top of Git. And so Git is the underlying technology, and there's a story behind Git. So you don't need to watch this video if you don't want to know about that. But I think it's a cool thing to know about because it's a nice anecdote, and it gives you a little bit of industry knowledge that you could then talk about with people, and it's kind of fun. So Git was created by Linus Torvalds. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right, but he's the same guy who created Linux. And so back in the early 90s, he created Linux. And Linux is one of the largest open source projects to have ever existed. And so it is the Linux operating system. And Linus said, you know what, I want to create my own operating system. And then he put that information out on the web, and the code, he made it open source. And so the source code, right, the code for the operating system was available to everybody in the world. And you could download it and you could change it if you wanted to change it. And so it became an open source project that a lot of developers were contributing to. And so other developers were downloading the code, changing it, and then uploading their changes. And to do all of that, to create this Linux operating system, he had to have version control software to help manage all of the checkouts of code and all of the check-ins of code. So people could check it out, they could change it, they could check it in, it could be reviewed, and then it could be accepted. And so he was using version control software called BitKeeper. And BitKeeper said, cool, we like Linux, use it for free, until 2005. And then in 2005, BitKeeper said, hey, Linus, Linux is huge. It's one of the most popular operating systems in the world. We want you to start paying us to use BitKeeper. And Linus said, pound sand, I'll create my own version control software. And so Linus then created Git. And Git became the industry de facto standard over the next couple of years. And now Git is so popular and GitHub is so popular that BitKeeper is completely off the radar and almost out of business. And so BitKeeper recently made their project, their code, open source in an attempt to stay alive. But Git has dominated the industry for version control software. It is the industry standard now. And so I think that's just kind of a funny story that BitKeeper is like, pay us money. And Linus was like, I'll create my own. And he created his own. And he effectively shut BitKeeper down, put them out of business. And then in 2008, I think it was, some guys who are using Git said, let's create a website, GitHub, like Facebook, but for coders. And it'll allow you to have remote repositories and be able to socially connect with people and work with people and collaborate with people. So that's where GitHub came from. So the main thing you should take away from this video, one of the main things, is that there's a difference between Git and GitHub. Git is the underlying software for version control, for managing versions. It's the version control software. And GitHub is a website built using the Git technology. Git started in 2005 by Linus, the same guy who created, Linux. And then in 2008, GitHub was created. So that's the backstory on Git and GitHub. And the one last thing I'll recommend to you is that at YouTube, you could search for a video which talks about how Linux was made, and it really gives you a nice representation how Linux was made or is made. It gives you a nice, here it is, how Linux is built. It gives you a nice representation of how many people can be contributing to the same project using version control software. So it's a super cool video to watch. It's only 3 minutes. I recommend you go check it out. All right, so it's a little bit of the backstory and the history on Git and GitHub.